Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. I want to talk to you today about creativity and the climate emergency and what our role is as creatives in this really extraordinary time that we're living in right now. Just to give you a bit of background as to Futerra, so this is our mission, making sustainability so desirable it becomes normal. So we were set up about 20 years ago with this mission, and it stood the test of time. And the reason that we had this mission is because when our co-founders back then, when they looked at the communication of sustainability, they had a question. They said, why is it that sustainability is being communicated in a way that's about sacrifice or worthiness or about, it's about having less of the stuff that you love or less fun, where actually sustainability is the most exciting game in town. This is about innovation. It's about transformation. So that's why we were founded. So we are a little bit different to your kind of normal creative agency in that we work on both the logic and magic of change. And what I mean now is logic is very much about the kind of technical side of sustainability. So we have on our team, people who are experts in environmental science backgrounds, and then magic, which is a bit more the kind of traditional creative play. And we bring those two disciplines together to help our clients, whether that be a global kind of fashion house or an NGO, to create change. But first of all, I want to just talk to you a bit about the climate emergency and what is it. I'm sure you've all kind of read the headlines. We've seen the speeches from Greta and the school strikes. But the climate emergency is this. It's quite scary, actually. If we don't kind of get control and take action on climate change, we'll actually see things like this happening. So sea level rise, wildfires, water shortages, crop failures, extreme weather, which will mean millions of people are displaced, and increased risks of war and of conflict. And what's quite scary is that this isn't happening 10 years down the line. This is actually happening right now. We are living through a climate emergency. And actually, I was on holiday 2 years ago in Cape Town, and this Cape Town nearly ran out of water. And that was 2 years ago. So we're living through these really kind of unprecedented emergency right now. And it can make you feel like this. It is quite scary. But what I want to talk to you today about is the fact that we have a choice. We have a choice about which way we go. So I'm going to dig in a little bit to climate change and some of the choices that we have in front of us, and in terms of some very brutal truths, but some beautiful possibilities as well. So with climate change, time is very much running out, as I mentioned. So last year, the IPCC, which is a group of scientists, put out a report that said we have just kind of 12 years to avoid catastrophic climate change. And more recently, actually, just a few days ago, a group of scientists released another report telling of saying we are very much in this situation right now, and it's going to cause untold amounts of suffering. But on the beautiful possibility is that we actually can fix this. We have everything that we need to solve climate change, whether that's natural kind of solutions or carbon sequestration or just keeping fossil fuels in the ground. We can fix this. And actually, 96% of climate scientists agree that we have the tools to do so. Another example here is, we're living through the 6th mass extinction. We're actually losing species up to 10,000 times faster than the natural extinction rate. So what that means is that species do go extinct. That happens, but we're seeing that happen 10,000 times faster than it should do. We've lost the majority of the Great Barrier Reef, but the beautiful possibility is nature's great comeback. Actually, nature's our biggest ally in fighting climate change. So through conservation, restoration, rewilding, we can actually deliver a third of the emissions reductions that we need to hit the Paris Climate Agreement targets. Endless consumption. So what is it that's causing climate change? A big part of it is our kind of insatiable appetite to buy new stuff and to have new stuff. And actually, just as an example in fashion, a truckload of clothing goes to waste around the world every second. So fashion's a very resource-intensive industry, but we're wasting a lot of it. But on the flip side of that, we could have this circular future where we don't just buy, take, make, and waste, but we actually take, make, and reuse and keep things in a constant cycle. And what's really positive, the things that I'm seeing, is actually the resale market in clothing is growing 21 times faster that of traditional retail. And the way we the thing is about climate change that it isn't distributed equally. We have environmental discrimination where people, indigenous people and some of the world's poorest are actually hit hardest by some of the causes of climate change. On the flip side, we could have climate justice, where we can redesign our societies based on fairness and equity and within planetary boundaries. So I think what that is to say is that climate change, if we solve it, is an opportunity to solve a lot that is wrong with society right now. And I love this quote by Rachel Carson, who's an environmentalist, who I think sums up this decision point that we have right now, is that we stand now where two roads diverge. But unlike the road in Robert Frost's famous poem, they are not equally fair. The road we've been traveling is deceptively easy, a smooth superhighway on which we progress with great speed, but at the end lies disaster. The other fork in the road, the one less traveled by, offers our last chance, our only chance to reach a destination that assures the preservation of our Earth. So I would actually take this quote further. I don't think it is just about preservation of life on Earth. That's one thing. But I think what we really have, the decision point at the minute is, can we make or redesign our world so it's even better than it is now? And I think as creatives, we are the architects of what's cool, what's fashionable, what's desirable. So how can we help through our work? How can we shift people to taking the road less traveled? And at Futerra, we kind of have this mantra called Imagine Better. And I really think that that's what we need to do right now. And if an industry can convince people to take that road less traveled that I spoke about, it has to be you, the creative industries. You have the vision to imagine better and the skills to make it happen, to bring people with you. And I really think that this is the creative brief of our time. So how are we going to respond to it? I want to talk to you a little bit about a piece of work that we've just completed with the film and TV industry. So we've just worked with BAFTA, which is the British Academy for Film and TV Arts. So they have the big award show is what they're kind of most famous for. And we wanted to look at how the film and TV industry, what role can they play during this kind of climate emergency that we're in right now. So to start with, we asked Deloitte, who's the management consultancy, to look at how many times climate change or solutions about climate change or terms related to climate change were actually mentioned in TV so in British TV. So so Deloitte looked across all of the kind of big broadcasters, looked at TV programs, not just news, but everything, to see how many times we were actually talking about climate change. And to kind of benchmark that, they compared it against how many times people mentioned cake. So if you want to play a little game, just try and see if you can guess. If I told you that picnic was mentioned 5,000 times. So cake was actually mentioned 46,000 times, compared to climate change, which is humanity's greatest, urgent pressure right now, was only mentioned 3,000 times, which is pretty damning. And then you can compare that. So Brexit obviously over-indexed. So that got way more mentions than climate change. And I think really from that data, what we thought is we're missing a huge opportunity here. TV and film reaches millions of people every day. And what are we doing to kind of raise awareness about the issues or talk about the solutions to people? And actually, time and again, TV and film have helped embed positive behaviors, shift mindsets, and inspire new ways of seeing the world around us. So this is just one example of how TV has had a positive social effect. So in the 80s and 90s, there was a big problem in the US around drink driving, which was actually causing drink driving fatalities. So the TV and film industry took this issue on, and the term designated driver, where if you go out for a drink, someone doesn't drink and takes the driving duties, that behavior and that term made it into hundreds of primetime TV shows like Cheers, and actually helped to normalize the behavior of designated drivers. And as a result, drink driving fatalities fell drastically. So we know that TV and film can really help shift culture and make behavioral norms. So what are we doing about climate change? So we worked on a piece called Planet Placement, which is essentially a resource for creatives working in TV and film to embed environmental messages around climate change and positive environmental behaviors into TV programming. And to give you an example, just to show you what that looks like a little bit, we've pulled some examples together of planet placement in action.
Hey, yo. Hey. Is that your car?
Yeah.
What's that thing get, 10 miles to the gallon?
No, try like 7. What about you?
Biodiesel, dog.
Smells like egg rolls.
Yeah, it does. Runs on leftover fry oil from Hunan Palace. But we try to ride bikes when we can, global crisis and whatnot.
Whatever, man. I don't care about anything.
Oh, you don't care about the environment? It's kind of fucked up, man.
Animals. Must we really stop eating them now, or can I have one last burger?
What's happened to our country? Who's taken the chicken nuggets?
Did you kill her? I'm really hungry.
It's still difficult to say it out loud. I ate animals.
Large bodies of water are disappearing because cotton is so thirsty. Before I started travelling for this documentary, I knew almost nothing. I was fairly familiar what went down from a human perspective, the human cost, but the environmental cost, yeah, I wasn't informed at all.
What do you do?
I'm an architect. What do you do?
So I work in environmental regulation.
Oh, wow, cool.
So, yeah, and I'm really, really interested in climate change.
Oh, are you? Cool. We're looking at like a massive eco new build, potentially.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Cheers.
Cheers. This is amazing.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Was it still water for you?
Sparkling, please. Yeah.
Like the bottles.
So, I know, cool. I imagine they're recyclable as well.
Ia, kiss someone that you would want to couple up with.
I don't know, I honestly don't know who I want to couple up with, but I will kiss someone that I'm interested in kissing.
My days, Rupert.
I'm a happy cow now because it's vegan week. There's no dairy or meat. Why don't you chop up a leek because it's vegan week?
That is really good. Did you write it yourself?
It's a kind of new kind of music. I call it moo wave.
Oh, yeah. That is a really happy cow.
Can't believe you got Paul and Prue to agree to that.
I know. I feel sorry for Prue, actually.
She's not the back end.
Yeah, and Paul had beans for breakfast.
Not his usual sausage sandwich.
No, it's vegan week.
Yeah, the cow said. It's vegan week. Chop up a leek.
So that just gives you an insight into British TV as well. So as you'll see there, that all those programs are very, very different. We have the Great British Bake Off, Love Island, which was a massive hit show in the UK and I think around the world. But all of those examples show planet placement in action. So with Love Island, what you may not have seen is the reusable water bottles that were in every single show and actually helped kind of normalize that as the reusable water bottle it made it a bit of a status symbol actually, to Great British Bake Off talking about veganism. So really interesting ways that we can get environmental messages into popular culture. So this is the resource, so it's an online guide for creatives, just showing, the bigger asks that we asked of the creative industries were to show the actions, so show the kind of positive behaviors, but also raise the issues in programming. So that it's full of environmental trends from which can fuel people's stories and give them new ideas for stories and content, and includes what you can do in your role as well, so whether you're a writer, a producer, or a commissioning editor. And also included lots of case studies as well of planet placement in action already. So that's the kind of film and TV industry that we worked with on that. But I want to really turn our attention back to you. And with this question, what are we in service to? Or what are you in service to? In these extraordinary times, how are we using our craft? Are we using it as a force for good or not? And this is quite interesting, actually, that in the last 10 years, the fossil fuel industry spent $1.4 billion on advertising. Now, I'm not saying that you're all working on fossil fuel briefs, but that just shows you that, our industry can either serve the problems or serve the solutions. And I don't know if you saw that Extinction Rebellion actually a little while ago put out an open letter to the advertising industry saying, they opened it in quite a menacing way, saying, you didn't think we'd forgot about you, did you? And actually, they called on the advertising industry to use its powers of persuasion for good. So to respond to that, actually, Futerra, with a group of other agencies, declared a climate emergency and said that we commit to a creative solution. So this was called the Creative and Climate Disclosure Report. And what we asked was that creative agencies kind of pledge and sign up and say that they declare a climate emergency, but importantly that they disclose how much of their revenue streams as agencies they were getting from high carbon industries. So whether that be fossil fuels, aviation, cars, or fashion, or fast food, to really understand, or to bring some transparency to the conversation, because I think it is really easy to say, yeah, we want to fight climate change, but if your revenue streams are coming from high carbon industries, then that makes things a little tricky. So far around the world, I think more than 150 agencies have signed up to kind of declare the emergency, but also to disclose their carbon clients. And really, this is all about a drive to change the way the advertising industry serves. If we believe that advertising creates culture, what kind of culture are we creating? And the work that you put into the world is really important and it's really powerful. So how are we going to use that as a force for good? What's interesting at the moment is that, culture is changing. We saw in the video at the start, actually, the school strikes and the climate strikes that have been happening, where millions of people are standing up and saying that they want to see action from governments, but also from businesses, and those businesses might very well be your clients. So as creatives, how can we serve this movement? How can we amplify it? How can we create work that serves this new generation of consumers? So at Climate Week New York, so we have an office in New York as well, and we pulled together some really kind of badass climate activists with some of our clients and put them in a room together, and we had what we called an honest conversation. And I just want to show you some snippets from that.
Climate activism is not our hobby. Climate activism is not something that we chose to do. Climate activism is our way of life.
As consumers has significantly changed. Personally, I don't shop as much as I used to. I don't know if your sales reflect that, but we're not purchasing as much. We're building stuff ourselves. We're sharing with our friends.
1, no more fossil fuels. 2, a just transition for workers and for people of color who, like Olivia was saying, bear the brunt of the climate crisis. And 3, it was to hold polluters accountable.
Being a person in a position of power, you have the responsibility to act for our well-being. You may not be a person in government, but the way that you conduct your business, where you source your products, that is your responsibility. As a business leader, I am positively impacting my community. That means I need to learn about race in the workplace. I need to learn about gender in the workplace. I need to know my environmental responsibilities when I go out and create products.
We are going to reevaluate our ways of life. We're going to be 100% of the future. The youth are only 20% of the present, but we are here and we're here to stay. And we're here to demand action, and we're here to disrupt.
To me, I want to learn from you guys as well. I want to see how you guys change and adapt to our sustainable message.
It's so important that we recognize everything that is working toward this goal, that it is a wave and people our age want to see it. You have a moral imperative to do it. You have entire communities that you see on your television screens all the time who need you to act.
But if you walk away from today thinking I can do it, thinking I have the power of influencing my business in a different way, if you do it from a place of love, trust me, you'll succeed because we are behind you. Millions of youth are behind you. We will trust that you're going to do this, and you can trust us to keep pushing. You can trust us to not go away, and we won't.
So I love that video. I think they couldn't have said it better, really. So I think I also want to just recognize that I'm coming from quite a privileged position in that I work for an agency that only works on kind of sustainability briefs. So it's very easy for me to say, use your creativity for good. But I think I just want to give you some tips for how you might be able to do that. And the first thing is, I don't think you need to wait for the perfect brief because it probably won't come. And actually, a lot of the briefs that we get, we have to, they come from a good place, but we have to hone them and craft them so that they actually do something positive. So I think don't wait for the perfect brief, but instead ask yourself, what's my client's role in creating a better future? Is there something that they can do? Is there a new service or a new product or a new campaign that might help, create that better future? And try and use your powers of persuasion to get them to do it. And that can be that doesn't mean that you need to hit them over the head with and tell them that it's urgent and you've got to do it. It can be about showing the business case to your clients and saying, actually, this makes complete sense. You're serving a new audience, and it can result in new revenue streams. So there's ways that you can push them to do it. I think if you don't get any joy with that, then maybe we should ask ourselves, well, should we be working with that client if they have no appetite or no role in creating a better world? I think also remember to have fun. Terms like climate emergency they're really good because they create a sense of urgency, but they can also be quite dangerous because they make people think that, oh God, there's nothing we can do about it. So I think have fun. This is a really exciting, what I've called an exciting creative brief. So have fun with it. See if you can do something completely new and innovative. And I just want to end on this wonderful quote. It wouldn't be a talk about climate change if I didn't quote Sir David Attenborough, who says, "You can't be radical enough." So I really encourage you to rise to this challenge and see what you can do. You have amazing skills, and how can you use them in this really extraordinary time that we're living through? Thank you so much.